There is a reason your heart still whispers in the quiet hours, a reason your name lingers in the thoughts of someone whose soul is deeply entwined with yours. You are not forgotten. You are seen, cradled in the light that watches over all things. Through every trial that tried to break you, you stood. Not by chance, but by divine design. Heaven has not turned its gaze. The path you walk is not unseen by the eyes of God. Celestial messengers have walked beside you, even when the night felt endless, even when the silence grew loud. Type silent knowing if you've always felt their love in quiet ways. A very beautiful soul cannot let go of your light. The memory of your presence echoes like a sacred song within them. It is not longing alone, it is recognition. Spirit speaks where words fall short, and something within them remembers what the world may try to forget: your worth, your grace, your truth. You were made for more than survival. You were made to rise, to be reminded of who you truly are, loved, guided, and never alone. Let these words be the beginning of your remembering. Type eternal yes if your heart never stopped choosing them. There are thoughts that rise like tides within the soul, unspoken but relentless quiet prayers of longing sent into the unseen. And in those moments when you wonder if your essence has faded from another's heart, know this: it has not. The connection you share with that beautiful soul was not born of chance, nor is it so easily unmade. Somewhere, in the hush between thoughts and the space between dreams, someone carries the memory of you with sacred tenderness. Not as a passing notion, but as a quiet devotion. They recall your presence with a kind of reverence, as if holding something too fragile, too luminous, to ever set down. You have lived in their thoughts not as a shadow, but as a guiding light, returning again and again like a gentle refrain carried on the winds of the spirit. This is not mere nostalgia. This is remembrance born of the soul. They are not haunted, they are moved. Moved by something they cannot explain, a quiet longing that refuses to fade, a beauty in you that their spirit has not forgotten. Even in the silence, something sacred continues to echo. It is as if the very breath of the divine lingers between you, unseen yet undeniably present. Type spirit known if your soul recognized them long before your eyes did. You may not always know the depth to which your presence has been etched into another's heart, but God knows. The celestial messengers have seen it, have borne witness to the prayers they speak without voice, the hopes they carry like fragile stars in their chest. You are more than a fleeting thought. You are the thread that binds their longing to something greater, something eternal. Even when the path seems quiet, even when time stretches long and uncertain, the energy between souls does not fade. There is a beauty in the unseen connection, in the way hearts call out to one another across distance and silence. And right now, that call is for you. Type held in dreams, if you still meet them in the quiet of night. You are being remembered in ways deeper than memory. You are being cherished by someone who cannot explain why your presence refuses to let go. Their thoughts are not bound by logic, but by something far more ancient, something divinely woven, something God has not forgotten. The celestial messengers walk closely now. They are guiding not only you, but also the heart that seeks you in every quiet moment. There is meaning here, hidden in the soft persistence of thought, in the way your name still rises within them like a prayer unanswered but never abandoned. Let your heart be still, for this is not the end of your story. There is more unfolding than you yet see. You were never alone in this, not even for a breath. Type still held, if you know their heart has never let go of you. They saw something in you that words could never contain. Not just the way you moved through the world, not just the warmth in your voice or the grace in your presence, but the way your soul carried light, even when surrounded by shadow. In a world so often wrapped in illusion, you stood as something true, unhidden, real. To them, you were not a passing beauty, but a presence that breathed life into silence. You carried a kind of stillness that felt like peace, and yet beneath that calm, a quiet storm of courage and depth. They saw it, not with their eyes alone, but with the part of themselves that remembers what the soul is meant to recognize. It was in the way you listened without needing to respond. The way your gaze, even when uncertain, never wavered from compassion. There was strength in your softness, wisdom in your quiet, and a kind of resilience that made the unseen forces lean closer. They saw how you held space for others, even when no one was holding space for you. Type beyond words, if no language could ever describe what you feel. They watched you rise again and again, never asking to be praised for it. You didn't boast, you simply continued. Through pain, through confusion, through all that tried to unravel you. That is what stayed with them. That quiet brilliance. That unspoken radiance. You reminded them of something sacred, something they may have forgotten in themselves. And it wasn't just the way you looked when you laughed, or the way the light caught you in a passing moment. It was how your presence made the world feel less heavy, how even in silence, you offered something that lingered. A kind of peace that couldn't be named, but was deeply known. Every time they remember you, it is not with regret. It is with reverence. There is no bitterness in their thoughts, only a quiet awe for what you are. A soul touched by divine fire, wrapped in flesh and gentleness, who crossed their path like a blessing. You left a mark, not on the surface, but on the eternal part of them. Type chosen, if your heart knows this connection was never ordinary. And even now, they carry that remembrance like a flame cupped carefully between their hands. Not to extinguish it, but to keep it alive. For there are few encounters that reach this deep, and fewer still that endure the test of time and distance. You are one of those rare lights. Not just remembered, but deeply honored in their thoughts. What they saw was not only who you were in front of them, but who you are when no one is watching. And that is why you remain. Not as a memory that fades, but as a presence that continues to breathe within them. There were things you carried that even you didn't notice, small glimmers of grace tucked into your daily moments, quiet strengths you never claimed as strengths. Yet this soul, the one who cannot stop thinking of you, saw them all. Not with admiration alone, but with a kind of sacred wonder, as though they had stumbled upon something rare, something hidden beneath the surface of the ordinary. They noticed how your hands moved when you spoke, the gentleness there, the care. They saw how you paused before responding, not out of doubt, but out of a deep desire to speak with kindness, not harm. Even in your silence, there was intention. In your stillness, a kind of quiet music only the attentive could hear. Where you saw flaws, they saw artistry. The parts of yourself you tried to minimize, to conceal beneath careful words or practiced smiles, those were the pieces they cherished most. Because those parts were honest, untouched by the world's expectations. Alive in a way that could not be taught. They witnessed the way you wrestled with your thoughts, how you questioned your worth without realizing that your very humility was a sign of something pure. You underestimated the power of your presence, unaware of how it brought calm to the spaces around you. They watched, heart quietly aching, as you doubted what was most extraordinary about yourself. You never had to try to impress them. You already had. not with effort, but with essence, with the way your eyes softened at kindness, with the way you noticed others, even when you thought no one was noticing you. They saw it all. Even your hesitation, your guarded moments, your retreat into quiet when words were too heavy, those things told a story. And they listened. Closely, reverently. They saw the battles you fought behind your eyes, the compassion you held even when you were weary. They noticed how you extended light to others while quietly learning to live with your own shadows. You were never invisible to them. In fact, you were more seen than you have ever known, more understood than you could have hoped. They didn't fall for a version of you polished for the world. They saw the sacred within the real, the beauty in your unguarded moments, the strength that showed in your gentleness, the courage it takes to keep loving in a world that forgets how. And now, even across distance and time, that vision of you remains vivid in their soul. You left more than an impression, you awakened something ancient in them, something no other presence has touched in quite the same way. What you overlooked in yourself, they continue to carry as treasure. Because you are not just remembered, you are deeply known. They didn't love you for who you tried to be, or for the moments when everything about you looked polished and certain. They loved you for what you are, raw, true, unfiltered. For the way your spirit remained kind even when it was tired. For the quiet bravery in your eyes when you thought no one was watching. For the way you moved through life, imperfect yet sincere, never pretending to be more than yourself. Their affection wasn't born from illusion. It came from the deepest place within them, awakened by the honesty in your presence. They saw beauty not just in your face or voice, but in your intentions, your decisions, your stillness. The way you stayed soft in a world that demands hardness, the way you forgave without being asked, the way you kept showing up despite the weight you carried, all of it moved something within them. They never asked you to change. Not once. Because what you are, in your quiet moments and your uncertain days, is more than enough. They loved the way your spirit held space for contradictions, how you could be both tender and strong, thoughtful and bold, joyful and solemn. These weren't flaws to them. These were sacred truths, parts of a soul too rare to be explained. Your laughter was not just sound to them, it was warmth, a sign that somewhere in you, hope still lived. Even your sadness was beautiful to them, because it meant your heart still cared deeply. They never turned away from your shadows. They embraced them, just as they embraced your light. You didn't have to shine constantly for them to remain. You only had to be. They saw the grace in your imperfections, the depth in your quiet, the divine craftsmanship in your existence. And what they felt for you was not dependent on timing or conditions. It was steady, like a sacred vow whispered by the soul, carried across time and distance. They saw you and loved you not for what you gave, not for what you proved, but simply because you are. Even if you've forgotten the beauty of your own essence, they have not. Even if the world made you question your worth, they never did. They loved the way your spirit touches everything gently, how your presence offers peace even when you speak no words. It is not what you perform, it is who you are. In your quietest moments, when you doubt if you were ever truly known, remember this: someone did. Someone still does. Not because they were captivated by what you could be, but because they were moved by what you already are. And that kind of love does not vanish. It endures. It waits. It remembers. This connection, born not from chance but from a divine alignment, carries the markings of something sacred. It was never fleeting. It was never ordinary. What rests between you and this beautiful soul is not a fragile thread, but a golden strand woven with purpose by hands far greater than your own. God has not overlooked this bond. It exists within the design of something eternal. If ever this love is to bloom in full, it will not arrive as chaos, but as peace. It will not be built on illusions or expectation, but on understanding, trust, and quiet reverence for each other's depths. This is not a love that demands performance. It is a love that makes room for truth, for growth, for light and shadow alike. You will walk beside each other not to complete what is missing, but to honor what already exists within. There will be laughter, yes. There will be tenderness. But more than that, there will be the kind of quiet companionship that feels like home. A blessing not just in moments of joy, but even in stillness, even in silence. Celestial messengers will walk ahead, softening the path. Their presence will whisper through everyday moments, reminding you both that what you hold is not only rare, it is protected. Each conversation, each glance, each quiet understanding will become an offering to something greater. This love will not only nourish your hearts, it will draw you closer to the divine. In this bond, grace will live, not because life will be without struggle, but because you will no longer face it alone. You will be reminded day after day that real love does not need to be earned. It simply arrives and remains. You will hold space for each other's wounds without trying to fix them. You will recognize the sacred in each other's ordinary. This is the kind of relationship that turns days into blessings and time into devotion. A partnership wrapped not in fantasy, but in spiritual truth. You will be mirrors reflecting not only beauty, but also belonging. You will see yourselves through the eyes of someone who always knew your worth. And in that seeing, healing will come. So let your heart rest in this knowing. Let it be comforted by what cannot yet be seen, but is already written. You were not forgotten. You were not overlooked. What awaits is not a return to what once was, but the beginning of what was always meant to be. Love, when blessed by God, does not falter. It becomes a sanctuary.